Imagine stepping into a city square at 9 p.m. The offices are dark, the daytime traffic has thinned out, and the heat of the afternoon is finally fading. Then, as if someone flipped a switch, the streets begin to change. Metal frames unfold, lights click on, aromas rise into the air, and a whole new version of the city appears. Today's episode is about night markets, not just as places to eat, but as carefully managed ecosystems. We'll look at how night markets are planned, how they keep people safe, why they matter for local culture, and what they reveal about the way modern cities use time and space. This is the quiet revolution of the after-dark economy. A world of temporary architecture, informal traditions, and surprisingly complex logistics. To start, let's define what a night market is. In many parts of Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America, markets that operate after sunset are a familiar tradition. Some are centuries old, others are new, created by city governments to attract tourism or to revive a neighborhood. A night market usually combines food stalls, small retail stands, casual entertainment, and a social atmosphere. It's more relaxed than a shopping mall and more communal than a restaurant. But here's what makes night markets fascinating. They are temporary cities for a few hours. A parking lot, a waterfront walkway, or a side street becomes a high-density zone where thousands of people move, eat, spend money, take photos, and linger. And then, just before midnight, the whole thing disappears. The first challenge is space. Most successful night markets are built on the idea of shared public infrastructure. Instead of every business renting an expensive storefront, vendors share the same area and use modular setups. City planners and organizers think in terms of flow, where people enter, where lines will form, where families with strollers can pass, and where emergency access must remain open. A common mistake is to pack too many stalls into one lane. That sounds profitable, but it creates bottlenecks. When crowds slow down, they stop buying. Good layouts alternate high-demand food stalls with lower-demand retail so that people don't pile up in one place. Organizers also use visual anchors, like a brightly lit stage or a central seating zone, to draw people deeper into the market instead of letting everyone cluster near the entrance. Next is electricity, which might sound boring until you realize it's one of the most stressful parts of operating at night. Food stalls need lighting, refrigerators, fans, and sometimes induction cookers. If the market depends on generators, the noise, fumes, and fuel logistics become major issues. Many modern markets are now designed with built-in power points, standardized connectors, and clear rules about wattage. That helps prevent overloaded circuits and reduces the risk of fires. Water and waste are equally critical. Night markets produce a lot of trash in a short time. Skewers, cups, napkins, food containers, and leftovers. A market that smells bad or looks messy loses its charm instantly. So, organizers plan waste like a system, not an afterthought. They place sorting stations at natural pause points, such as near seating areas or at the exits, and they schedule cleaning crews to circulate continuously, not just at closing time. Some markets also require vendors to use certain types of containers, for example, compostable bowls or reusable cups with a deposit. In practice, these policies only work when they're designed for real human behavior. If returning a cup takes 5 minutes, people will throw it away. If returning it takes 30 seconds and you get your money back immediately, participation rises. Now let's talk about safety. Because a crowded night market can be both joyful and risky. There are food safety concerns, crowd management concerns, and general security concerns. On the food side, organizers often require health certificates, temperature checks for ingredients, and hand-washing stations. In high-end markets, inspectors may walk around with infrared thermometers to check whether food is being kept within safe temperature ranges. Crowd safety depends on sightlines and exits. If a market has narrow lanes and no clear escape routes, one small incident can trigger panic. That's why well-run markets have designated emergency corridors, visible signage, and staff trained to communicate calmly. You might not notice them, but the staff are there. monitoring crowd density, responding to small conflicts, and coordinating with nearby police or medical services if needed. Another interesting aspect is licensing. Night markets live in the space between formal and informal economies. Traditionally, many street vendors operated with minimal paperwork. But as cities grow and tourism increases, governments often push for regulation: permits, taxes, hygiene standards, and operating hours. This can be positive because it protects consumers and gives vendors more stability. Yet it can also exclude people who rely on low barriers to entry. If permits are expensive or the paperwork is complicated, the market becomes less diverse. Instead of a mix of family recipes and experimental snacks, you get a more uniform set of businesses that can afford the fees. So successful night market policies often try to balance regulation with access. Some cities create tiered permits. New vendors might start with a short-term permit, prove they can meet safety rules, and then apply for a longer license. Others reserve a percentage of stalls for local residents or for micro-businesses, so the market doesn't turn into a corporate showcase. Now, beyond logistics and policy, night markets are cultural stages. Food isn't just food here, it's identity. Many markets become famous for a particular dish, not because it's luxurious, but because it's tied to memory and place. Think about how a bowl of noodles can represent a neighborhood, or how a specific spice blend can signal a region. But culture in night markets is not frozen in time. It evolves quickly. You'll often see heritage dishes next to global trends: cheese pulls, bubble tea variations, Korean corn dogs, or fusion tacos. Purists sometimes complain that this dilutes tradition. Yet the mixing is part of what markets have always done. They respond to what people want, what ingredients are available, and what new generations consider exciting. If you listen to conversations in a night market, you also hear language in motion. Tourists asking questions, teenagers using slang, vendors using persuasive phrases, families negotiating what to buy. For ESL learners, it's a perfect soundscape of real-world English because it combines practical language with social language. Economically, night markets are powerful because they turn dead hours into productive hours. Many city centers are quiet after offices close. A night market can activate that space, increase foot traffic for nearby businesses, and make a neighborhood feel safer simply because there are more people around. However, there's a downside: noise and crowding for residents. A successful market can become too successful. That's why some cities limit operating days or set strict closing times. Others invest in sound management, placing speakers away from residential buildings, reducing bass-heavy music, or locating performance zones where the sound dissipates. And then there's the issue of gentrification. When a night market becomes a tourist brand, rents can rise. The very vendors who made the market special might be priced out, replaced by businesses that look more professional but feel less authentic. Cities that care about long-term cultural value sometimes introduce protections like capped stall fees or priority renewals for long-standing vendors. Let's zoom in on the human side. The vendors. A night market stall looks simple, but it often represents an entire household strategy for survival and progress. Many vendors prep ingredients during the day, operate for 5 or 6 intense hours at night, and then clean and restock after closing. Their schedule is physically demanding and socially complex. Vendors also operate in a competitive environment where reputation spreads fast. If your dumplings are great, people will queue. If your hygiene is questionable, people will avoid you. Some vendors build a brand through consistency. The same flavor, the same portion, the same quick service. Others stand out by offering a performance, like flambeing, hand-pulling noodles, or telling jokes to the crowd. Technology has quietly changed this world as well. Cash is still common in many markets, but digital payments are expanding, especially where tourists expect to tap a card or scan a code. For vendors, that can mean easier accounting and fewer security risks, but it also means transaction fees and dependence on stable internet. Social media has arguably changed night markets even more. A single viral video can create sudden demand that overwhelms a small stall. Some vendors embrace it by designing camera-friendly food, dramatic steam, bright colors, unusual shapes. Others resist, focusing on locals rather than chasing online fame. Now, if you're listening and thinking, this is interesting, but what does it teach me about cities? Here's a key idea. Night markets show how urban life is increasingly planned around flexible use. In the past, one space had one purpose. A street was for vehicles, a hall was for meetings. Today, cities are experimenting with time-based zoning. The same street can be a traffic lane by day and a pedestrian food corridor by night. This flexibility can make cities more livable. It can also reduce costs because you don't need to build a new structure for every activity. But it requires coordination and trust between organizers, vendors, residents, and government departments. So the next time you visit a night market, try to notice the invisible design. Where are the entrances and exits? Where are the trash stations? How is the crowd moving? What rules are posted? And which rules are enforced through social pressure rather than formal policing? And if you can, listen closely to the voices around you. Night markets are not just places to buy dinner. They are living examples of how communities negotiate space, culture, and commerce in real time. Before we end, here's a question to reflect on. If your city created a night market next month, what would you want it to include? And what problems would you worry about? Food variety, local music, cleanliness, noise, affordability? That's all for today's episode from Kuma English Listening Hub. If you enjoyed this topic, replay it once for general understanding. Then again to catch details like the cause and effect links and the policy vocabulary. And next time you see a street transform after dark, remember, it's not magic. It's planning, culture, and thousands of small decisions working together.